pressure of it now with Leicester, because how many points were they in front of Man United and you know, before, and they just caught them up. And
they were 14 points clear at their furthest.
That's what it was. And so you think to yourself, now the momentum is with United. Man United, like that, David De Gea seemed to do everything he can to try and even it up. But you have to say that Man United, I've got the momentum, so it's just down to them to finish it off now.
Yeah, we'll talk about where those weaknesses are in a second, but in terms of their strengths, it's clear to see that Manchester United have got the firepower, and they've certainly got the midfield to support those front three as well.
Yeah, I think everybody was talking about United and the fact they're so far behind in terms of talent between Liverpool and Man City, and all of a sudden now, you know, one of the best front threes in the whole division. Pogba looks a different player. Bruno Fernandes, all of a sudden now Nemanja Matic is the one we saw at Chelsea. In the balance of that front six, he's pretty much played that six, that, you know, between the front three and that midfield three, pretty much every game. So I think Ole's found his team that works, and I think with the injuries that Leicester have, especially in the back four, I think it's too much for Leicester. I feel for Brendan. I'm with Wrighty. You know, they've had such an outstanding season, but you know, those injuries that they've had in the back and suspensions, terrible time for them to have such a dip in form. And I think the momentum's with United, and I think they finish the job.
But don't you think, though, when you look at United and you get to that back centre pairing and the goalkeeper, the confidence, I think that Leicester can get at them.
Vardy's going to be licking his lips, really, isn't he? Because in terms of with his pace, you know, against Lindelof and Maguire, I think he's top scorer in division. It's probably going to stay that way. So I think Jamie Vardy gets some chances, but I think with the front three from United, they're going to score some goals.
Yeah. What's interesting with United, I've found, is that he seems to have settled on his best 11, but I'm not quite sure who he trusts beyond that. And I think he's almost had to overplay them a little bit. You know, they played virtually, as you say, they played virtually every game.
Yes.
And then he tried to change it, didn't he, for the FA Cup semi-final, and that came back to bite him. He's gone back to his team again, and they looked a bit tired. And I think the problem is showing up is that he's clearly got this 11 or 12 players that he really trusts, and beyond that, considering what a big squad they've got and how much money they've spent, he clearly doesn't trust a lot of those other players. And we've been told this week, for example, that he's looking to have a bit of a clear out. Now, good luck with that during the current situation, whether you can do that. But I think he's trying to push the club to say, look, there are players here, quite a lot of players who I just don't really want anymore, I don't have faith in. And I think that's probably been vindicated by what's happened, because when they have come in, they haven't done particularly well. And
one of the players that's really shone for them, particularly since the lockdown, has been Mason Greenwood, who is an academy product, and actually has sort of made his way into the Manchester United side gradually without much hype or fanfare.
No, he didn't come like when we saw Marcus Rashford come. He was scoring goals. He's just scoring goals in Europe, scoring goals against Arsenal. But the hype behind this guy has been going since he's been in the youth team. Everybody who's got anything to say about Mason Greenwood has said he will make it to the first team. He will be the next big thing out of the Man United academy. This goal was magnificent. I thought he's gone too. Look at that. He's just got everything in respect of a goal scorer, a front man, and like, if you had to pay for that kind of ability now, what's come through there, what's that going to cost you? That's going to cost you 50, 60 million now. He's got, 10 goals in the Premier League, you know, alongside Rashford with his 20-odd and Martial with his 20-odd. Now, with people talking about, can they replace that? Oh, they didn't replace Lukaku. Look at that. You know, 50 goals between them three now. Amazing.
Yeah, I think he's... The word that comes to mind when I see Mason Greenwood is a natural. He's just a natural finisher. And I think if there's a chance that falls to anyone in the game to get them into the Champions League, I think if Ole could wish it went to anyone, it's to Mason Greenwood. As good as Marcus Rashford is, as good as Martial, as good as Fernandes and Pogba are, if you get a chance, you want to fall to him, because he never rushes. You look at all the young players, when they're getting those key moments, sometimes they're too fast, aren't they, right? Or they're too quick. Mason Greenwood is calm. He's cool as ice. And with both feet, I mean, he takes corners with one foot, he takes pens with the other. I haven't seen a kid as naturally gifted as Mason Greenwood in a long time.
No, he's been a really exciting player to watch, particularly since lockdown. It seems to have, I don't know, been his time to shine. On the other hand, the spotlight has fallen on David De Gea for very different reasons. Do you think there's a question mark in Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's mind as to whether he should start him? Maybe, I'm talking about Dean Henderson coming back, but also maybe even playing Sergio Romero.
I think it's interesting that Solskjaer tried to close the stories down during the week and said, I'm not going to have this as a David De Gea press conference, which to me said that he's probably going to stick with him for the rest of this season anyway, just to try and not make that a story. I think if they leave him out again, without being too cynical, the value suffers, of the player. There's only one more game to go in the Premier League. What will be interesting to see what they do in the Europa League, for example, when they go forward with that. But clearly, I mean, I've thought for some time, it's easy to say this now, that he's not been the player he was. I think it's interesting watching these behind the closed doors games. You see which goalkeepers command their areas much more, who's vocal, who's talking to their players. He says nothing. He says absolutely nothing. I was at the Tottenham-Manchester United game at the start, and I was so surprised at how vocal Lloris was and how much he commanded. He's the captain, I know, as well, but he says a lot. Yeah. He's talking. David De Gea didn't say anything to his teammates. He didn't say anything at all. I thought there's no sense of presence there, or it doesn't seem to have the presence that you need to have nowadays in modern football. Alisson's got presence and talks quite a lot. Yeah. And also we know about the kind of distribution issue. He's not quite as good as Alisson or Edison, but it's just that sense of presence, I think. I just don't think he commands his area and commands the team the way that other goalkeepers do.
I just wonder if Spain supporters and people who've watched the national side will think this is the David De Gea that we see, because he's not hugely well regarded by Spain fans or by Spain supporters.
Yeah, but I think he's got too much in the bank to make that change right now. I think Ole just gives himself more of an issue, and I think the bigger issue is, if next season, if Dean Henderson comes in, what if Dean Henderson starts the season poorly? The spotlight's completely different at Old Trafford than it is at Sheffield United. So I think for now, because of the credit David De Gea has in the bank, not with Spain, but with United being Player of the Year all those years, he deserves the opportunity to figure it out. His form, especially after the FA Cup game,
even the amount of time he's been making errors for a while.
Yeah, but I think with the way he played in the FA Cup, I think he's put a lot of pressure on Ole now, because it looks like you have to make a decision, because he is making mistakes and poorly. And if it costs him against Leicester, then obviously there's a decision to make in the summer. But I think he has the right to fix it. But it looks like it's going one way and not the other.
But it's interesting listening to your points about maybe bringing Henderson back and the position that would put Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in, because then if he brings Henderson back, he almost has to play him, really. But would you have, hindsight's a wonderful thing, but would you not maybe have taken De Gea out of the firing line and maybe put Romero in for a while? He's the Argentina national goalkeeper. Yeah,
but say if you take De Gea out of the firing line, then the pressure just comes onto the whole thing about, De Gea, are they going to sell him?
Frank Lampard did it with Kepa and Caballero, didn't he?
Yeah, but Kepa, for me, he shouldn't be in there for me. I know that he's only got Willy Caballero, but I don't think he's good enough. And I think that as soon as they can, if they could, they'd probably get rid of him now. I think that if you're Henderson, you're looking at that situation, you've gone out on loan, you've gone to Sheffield, he's done everything you need to do to let your team who put you out on loan know that I'm ready to come back now to challenge. If he can't come back and challenge David De Gea now, they should just sell him. He should go somewhere else, because what I've seen of David De Gea up to this point and the mistakes he's making, then Henderson should be saying, listen, I deserve a chance now. If he doesn't get it, he should go somewhere else to get it.
Does Henderson want to come back and challenge, or does he want to come back with a bit of a guarantee that he's going to be the first choice?
But you don't have the right to a guarantee as a young kid, do you?
He's a very confident guy.
I know
he's playing Premier League football now with Sheffield United, and maybe thinks, I don't want to sit on the bench, because when push comes to shove, De Gea's earning an awful lot more money than me, and the manager's probably going to go with him.
I think he backs himself as well. With De Gea. But I think he says to the club, look, play me in the FA Cup, play me in the Champions League games. That's enough. If I outperform David over the full season, it's my job, and then you can sell them next season, or sell one of them next season. But I think if you're Ole, I think get them both under the roof and see in training camp who's the best. But I think you're right, Dean, knowing him, he backs himself, doesn't he?
You have to see how David De Gea reacts to that as well, because if you turn around and say, you're not going to play the cup games, including Champions League, you might turn around and say, hang on a minute, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, but his bargaining position is down, David, now, isn't it?
No, I know, but you might create an issue, at the club between these two players. I think it's interesting that, I think Chelsea did it for a little while when they had Peter Cech and Courtois, but most clubs don't really have two number ones who are clearly number ones for very long, do they? It doesn't really last. You like the theory of it. You think that's quite a good idea to have two really good goalkeepers who are going to go for it. Liverpool suffered a bit, obviously, because they couldn't kind of make up their mind between Mignolet and Karius for a while. And I think that creates an uncertainty around the team a bit. I think you need to sort of know who is the number one in goal.
I think the only issue I have with it is, if Dean comes in as good as he is, and he makes a couple of mistakes in September, all of a sudden you've lost David and you've lost Dean. And then I think it becomes an even bigger issue, and that will fall back on Ole in terms of...
He has made mistakes this season.
He has.
The thing about
his mistakes aren't as in focus as they are at Manchester United.
But what needs to be done is that David De Gea does need to know that he's going to get pushed. So if you do bring in Henderson and let's say he does make a few mistakes, then you can go back to David De Gea, and then hopefully he won't make the mistakes. But the fact is, he does need to be pushed. Otherwise, what's Henderson doing? What's he doing? What about him? Why shouldn't he want to be Manchester United's number one and earn 350 a week?
The point is David De Gea is the highest paid player at Manchester United at the moment. Obviously, Alexis Sanchez earns more money, but David De Gea is the highest paid player. And it's a bad look for a club to have the highest paid player sitting on the bench. As Arsenal know.
They've created a rod for their own back by doing that, because now that they've got in the most important position for me at the moment for Man United, they've got, their highest paid player who's making mistakes. So what, they're going to leave him in there just because he's the highest paid player?
Right, you're right. If you miss 10 chances, even if you're the highest paid player, you won't play, would you?
You won't play.
Somebody else will get in ahead of you. And I think David now, because of the mistakes he's making, the pressure's on Ole to say, am I going to pick you anymore, or am I going to stick with you? And I think it's a lot of pressure for Ole, because he's probably not 100% sure either way, is he?
No, I don't think so.
But just one more Premier League game for David De Gea and for Manchester United. It's against Leicester. We can hear from his opposite number, Kasper Schmeichel.
It was victory to the top four. They've been there for 10 months, but this defeat will surely mean that they'll be back outside the leading quartet going into the final game. And now they may well have to beat Manchester United for a place in the Champions League.
Obviously, Sunday is massive, but these are the games you're in football for, right?
I think if you offered us this at the start of the season, that we could be fighting with Manchester United and Chelsea for Champions League on the last day, I think we'd have taken that.
Yeah, exactly. I remember talking to you in pre-season, actually, and I think we were saying, can Leicester get into Europe this season? So to be on the brink of the Champions League, I guess it's exciting and it's nerve-wracking, but the prize that's there for you is just so big.
Like I said before, if we had been offered this in pre-season, we'd have taken it 100%. And it's the games that you just want to play in, these kind of games. So, you can see it in training. Everyone's just looking forward to it. Everyone's buzzing. Everyone's